And Chair Charneski, Vice Chair Ledyard, and Board Member O'Connor. So if you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and then state your name.
I, Susan Charneski.
Ledyard.
Hi,
Brian O'Connor.
Sorry,
Oh, yeah, Board Member. I missed you. Yeah, you too. Do solemnly swear or affirm.
Do solemnly swear
solemnly swear or affirm.
Do solemnly swear or affirm
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
that I will
That I will
support the
support the
Constitution
Constitution of the United
that I will
States
support the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona.
and the Constitution
Constitution
and laws of the
and
state of
and the
Arizona.
Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
That I will
That I will
bear
bear
true
true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
to the same
to the same
and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
domestic.
And that I will faithfully and impartially
And then
and that I will
faithfully and
impartially
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the
discharge the
duties
duties of the office
of the Board of Adjustment Design Review Board
the Board of
Board of
Adjustment
Adjustment
Design Review Board
Board.
to the best of my ability,
to the best of
of my ability.
so help me God, or so I do affirm.
So help me.
So help me God.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So the first on our agenda, I actually can't read that.
We have election of officers, but we can continue that to the next meeting if
Okay.
you would like, move things
That's
along
fine.
or to,
Let's continue that to the next meeting. If that's
is
all
everyone
right.
in?
The chair, if you ever want me to have the agenda up as well, I always keep it in the background if it helps you in between toggling documents. I'm happy to.
Yeah, otherwise I have to scroll through all my whole file to get back to it, or
Yeah, let me pull it up for you real quick. Just 1 second.
I've got it for now, I think.
Okay.
We'll if it's all right with the rest of the board, we'll just postpone the election of officers to our next scheduled meeting. I'll make that motion if someone will second.
A second.
And all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. So then we'll move on to design plans for roof mounted solar panel installation proposed for 690 East Fairway. Jason, you want to give your staff report?
Yes, Chair, thank you. And I want to make sure, you guys, I work from my screen, so I don't know what it actually looks like on your end. Does this look okay for you on your side?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'm just making sure I actually show you the window of the document that's open and not my whole screen. Otherwise, it would be too much. Yes, so design plans for roof mounted solar panel installations for 690 East Fairway. For those that are new to the process and for the applicant, just as a reminder, there's 4 requirements that shall be met as per the City of Litchfield Park zoning ordinance for pitched roof solar energy collector panel installations, that they shall be laid in a flat configuration parallel to the roof plane and appear to be an integral part of the building. They'll be quadrangular in shape and aligned with the existing roof edges. They shall be positioned within the field of the roof plane with proportional margin of roof between panel and edges, and that they shall not be more than 10 inches above the surface of the pitched roof. This property is at the corner of Fairway Drive and Villanueva Drive, so it'll be visible and the panels will be visible from both streets. So it is important to note that it's at an intersection. So we do want to take that into consideration. Went ahead and brought up the panel array. You can see Fairway Drive here in the front with the circular drive, and then the other driveway over here, which would be Villanueva over there. The reason that this is brought before the board is because of the relatively irregular pattern of panel array that's been put on the roof. You can see that the typical flipped horizontal, vertical panel orientations. Some of them are not quite quadrangular in shape, so there's appearance a little bit of a mismatch, on the roof. And our hope would be from the staff level is to square it up as much as possible. The second point that I should put out there is that I believe in the exhibits provided by the applicant, there was a notation that they were going to run conduit across the back of the roof on the surface, which you can't do. All the conduit would need to be concealed, as you know, usually through the attic space. So it would be our hope that the applicant would work with staff and the design review board to, again, one, square up the panel arrays, conceal the related conduit, and then ensure, and please confirm, which I wasn't aware, I'm not certain of, that there is no tilt on these panels, because this roof is relatively, it's not quite flat, right? It's just that it's got a very, very low pitch. And I wanted to make sure that we weren't actually pitching the arrays on top of the low pitch roof. They would need to be flat. So if the applicant can confirm those items and find a way to square them up, I think we could get to a staff recommendation of approval, but until then, staff is recommending denial of the application is filed until we can kind of clear these items up.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant present in the meeting?
Oh, maybe not. I'm sorry, Chair, we have someone participating by phone that we thought was the applicant, but they're muted. We're not sure if that's who it is. Well,
Okay. Can we, let's see, if we don't have someone to speak for the applicant, we can move
Well-
on to the next.
Certainly, and I know that we're pressed for time. In case the applicant is having an issue with technically unmuting their phone or what other purpose, they are welcome to use the group chat button to let us know that if they're able to do that. I suppose if they're on their phone, they can't use the group chat, but just letting them know in case there's an audio issue, they can chat. But if not, obviously, Chair, we can move on.
Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and move on. And if we hear from the applicant before we end the meeting this evening, we'll reconsider that, or we'll propose a motion to continue it. So
Right.
the next item is 3 design plans for an exterior remodel for 320 West Luchana Drive. And I understand this is Mr. Ledger's home.
Yes, that's correct. I have to recuse myself at this point.
Okay, thank you. And then
we will put you in the room. We will put Vice Chairman Ledyard in the waiting room.
okay. Then Jason, if you want to go ahead and give your report.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This will be a brief report for 320 West Luchana Drive. The applicant for the project is proposing to make some minor changes to the front of the residence to change its overall appearance by removing the arched entry that it currently has, you can see in the photo there, and replace it with some kind of rough sawn post beams and fascia. Really, the reason this is being brought to the board is because it wasn't really just a resurface, repaint within the color schemes that are already adopted by the town or by the city of Litchfield Park, but rather because there's actually architectural changes to the front. The colors and materials are intended to match in terms of the color of the home. There's 2 stucco finishes that are on the home now. The intention is to resurface it so it has a uniform appearance with a single type of stucco finish. And again, the big deal is, taking the arch out and putting in beams and posts. So it's our understanding based on the application that the intent is to refresh and enhance the front appearance of the home. And it's just limited to that. So with that said, staff's recommending approval of the application as filed, subject to the exhibits provided by the applicant. And then you'll see the conditions slightly modified. All colors, building materials, and finishes shall match those of the existing residence or as otherwise modified for the exhibits provided.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone to speak for Mr. Ledyard?
Yes, Glenn Forstner here.
Oh, hi, Glenn. Okay, do any of the board members have questions for staff or for the owner's agent? Hearing none. Would someone like to propose a motion?
I'll propose approval of the application in accordance with staff recommendations to
Okay.
subject to the exhibits provided by the applicant and match the existing.
Thank you. Do I have a
I will
second?
second that.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Brian.
I would second that.
Okay, I think we're the only ones left in the meeting, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And okay, it passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. So we'll go, is anyone here to speak for the first applicant?
I don't think so.
Okay, we have
I
a
move the
motion.
I motion that we table it to next month.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion, a second to table to the next meeting. Is because the applicant is not, or applicant's agent is not present, and we'll do that. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Did Mr. Ledyard come back to the meeting?
Yeah, I'm back. I wasn't
Okay.
sure which one we were on.
Okay, we went back to the first one to continue it to their next meeting because the applicant's not present.
Okay, I vote aye.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we'll continue on and with the study session, or just that's something else we need to continue?
I think,
There's no
I believe
action
they-
required, we can review it, or?
I think that's the last. Is,
Mr. Hitchens, is that correct?
Mr. Hitchens? Are you in the meeting?
Mr. Hitchens is in the meeting, yes.
Oh, good.
Hello, all.
Pam, sorry, this is Brian. I'm gonna cancel off here. If you did need me to take any action, just, you can call me.
Okay, I think we're good now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Jason, this is just for information only.
That's correct, Chair and board members. What, a little context. So Taco Bell, we're excited to have them submit. There'd been some talk for some time that they'd had interest in the site at Dysart and Camelback. And so I have both the staff report for you and a very brief PowerPoint presentation just to help illustrate where I think we're going with this. You know, the client submitted a robust and complete application for site plan and design review, which staff appreciated. And to give you some context of two items that we were approaching the review of Taco Bell with, and that is one, that this is now the sixth pad within the Dysart and Camelback Center. And so, you know, everything started with Dignity Health, gosh, goodness, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago? They kind of set the standard. You might recall, they came in with building elevations with a very medical looking facility, and our concern at the time when Dignity Health came in was that it was just a little too medical, and that we had this remaining commercial center. And if you might recall, I know you were chair at the time, we asked them to try to soften up their color and materials palette so that as the project built out, we would have colors and materials more appropriate for retail development. So they came in with a bit of a hybrid approach, and I'll explain that through the PowerPoint. And since that time, since AutoZone's come in, since Cube Smart Self-Storage came in, since Cobblestone Car Wash and Denny's Restaurants, all of those have come before the board and been approved. And they've all been looked at and reviewed against the initial approval of Dignity Health. And through the process, we've taken some care to make sure that there's some compatibility Yet we didn't really require everybody to perfectly match one another, so that there could still be some uniqueness and variety within the center, but not make it look like a bunch of mismatch, right? So landscaping palette should stay relatively consistent, the color of granite, the type of lighting, and then the color and building materials. Usually we would like them to share color materials, like the body color and the stone veneers really should be the same. Concepts should be similar, but that they might introduce some unique aspects. And we've had that happen across those projects at Dysart and Camelback. The second aspect that we're approaching this as is Taco Bell is a drive-through restaurant. And so as we've done with multiple drive-throughs in the last 4 years, particularly both at Litchfield Marketplace, we've had Panda Express, Jack in the Box, and Starbucks all come through. Those 3 projects were also expected to maintain some level of, I don't like to use the word conformity, but compatibility with the Litchfield Marketplace design of the fries. Remember the fries in the retail shops? So they came in with color palettes and materials and concepts that complemented without copying completely. We gave them a little splash of red at Panda Express. Starbucks had a little splash of green because it's kind of the corporate. And we worked with them. And as you know, I've always pressed through the city and its design guidelines that we have an outdoor dining element. And each of those restaurants at Litchfield Marketplace provided even minimal dining elements outdoors. And frequently they are actually used as I go to those spots. Same thing for Monument Point. Burger King came in and they complied with the design guidelines that were set with the Monument Point case set years and years ago. They also provided an outdoor dining trellis and did a great job on the landscaping. They're a little bit of an island of drive-through restaurant, within the Caliber Collision Center and the rest that's happening over there, since that site's technically zoned industrial. So we're approaching Taco Bell from those 2 angles. So that said, we've more or less, I'll run through the report and then I'm going to toggle over, if you don't mind, to my PowerPoint. Again, this is study session. So we've only done a first review comments on the application. We haven't received a second submittal. The design team in charge of working on this project has not really yet had a chance to respond, although I imagine they have some first comments that they may want to share with us tonight. But the site plan looks like it has good access and circulation. We have asked them to show how their site plan looks against the adjacent car wash parcel to the south. I will advise the applicant who's listening on the line that I had some concern about making sure that there was sufficient landscaping between the site plan of the Taco Bell and the car wash. But since that time, we found that the car wash site plan that's going to be directly south has indeed provided enough landscaping to place trees between the 2 sites. I was very concerned that the the car wash queuing lane to enter the car wash tunnel would be separated to the Taco Bell parking lot by nearly nothing but a 6-inch raised concrete curb, which would not be attractive at all. So I want to work with the applicant for Taco Bell to make sure that we've got about 7 feet of clearance so that those trees can be properly planted and maintained, because the car wash site plan originally envisioned at least 5 feet of landscaping on the Taco Bell side. And currently right now it's 0. So Taco Bell really needs the whole site for circulation and stacking for the drive-through and for the parking area, which I understand. The second comment that I had asked for, and we'll look at the site plan, I know you have the full packet, was to consider a limited outdoor dining area and shade cover to be available for patrons. Not only this has been a city policy for the last 5 drive-throughs that we've done, but with COVID, we've seen a press towards shifting dining outdoors a little bit. We know that COVID is slowly in regression. But even so, all things considered, we think it would help to soften the appearance of the typical QSR fast food restaurant square box building by putting something on the west elevation to kind of soften the look of just the kind of square box that the building is. They've got 3 parking spaces over there that are relatively unuseful, in my opinion. You've got a drive-through stack that's exiting Meanwhile, it's exiting into a cross drive aisle, and then you'd have 3 parking spaces trying to maneuver in and out in kind of a weird space. So if you look at the site plan, you'd see the 3 spaces I'm talking about. My recommendation would be to just simply delete those 3 spaces or do something else and extend, maybe some hardscape and some shade trellis and a couple tables. Nothing big, but just something to accomplish the purpose. Further, they'll need to clearly more illustrate the connections of the pedestrian pathways on the site plan. I think they're doing a pretty good job so far. I think they're on the right path. Landscape plan, this needs to be improved. If you look at the landscape plan in your packet, I don't know if there was maybe just a handful of trees. They'll just need to work on making sure that they, 1, follow the existing plant palette for the center, and 2, they meet landscape requirements in terms of shrub, ground cover, and tree quantities that we would expect. We know they don't want to block their building, their signage, but they need to step it up on the landscape plan side. Lighting plan, again, making sure that their light poles, wattage, lumens, Kelvin temperature, and fixture types are compatible with the Dignity Health, so that we don't have this weird mismatch of lighting types throughout a commercial center. They may have done that already. I'll let the architect speak for himself. I'm sure his MEP is on top of that. Lastly, I want to focus on the elevations. So the Taco Bell prototype came in, and it's clearly the Taco Bell prototype. I understand that. They've got a lot of siding proposed on here. A predominance, of course, the Taco Bell purple. They've got some kind of the dark charcoal color occurring here. I don't have all 4-sided building elevations there, but just for some perspective, Dignity Health had gone with a little bit different approach. And again, they led the center in terms of colors and materials. So what we would seek is that the design team take the Taco Bell prototype, create that little front patio on the front, however they want to do it, but do a little bit better job of blending the base material palette of the Dignity Health Center and of the other users with the Taco Bell elevations, and I think that they'll get there. We've talked in the past about the extent or not extensive usage of corporate colors, such as the purple, such as the Panda red, such as the Starbucks green, such as the Denny's yellow. We've allowed them to have little splashes of it, without it dominating, so that the building becomes more sustainable in terms of if it should be no longer a Taco Bell in 10 years, it could be easily adapted to some other user. And that's really what we try to do, is not only have cohesiveness, but sustainability in terms of long-term readaptation of the building. I think that they're getting pretty close. So that said, this is my first review comments to the applicant. You usually see this project at a stage where they've resubmitted already, responding to our comments, but we're giving you a preview because we're trying to help them along. What I'd like to do now, if you don't mind, Chair, is toggle over to my PowerPoint, and then I can scroll through and show you all of the users in the center and what their elevations look like, and then that might help facilitate the discussion and the applicant's brief response. Again, remember, this is a study session item. It's not up for action. So it's really for you to digest it. And then when we come back next month, you'll be able to make a better decision on it. So I'm going to toggle to my PowerPoint. Just give me 1 second to change my screen share, if you don't mind. All right, and just let me go to full screen share mode here. I just have to remember how to do it. All right. All right, so Dysart and Camelback, again, this is the study session, today's date. I thought I'd get creative with Google Earth and give you guys a better representation of kind of what's going on at Dysart and Camelback and where this fits in. So Dignity Health led the charge. They came in, they're pretty much built, as you know, and operational. To the east of Dignity Health, which has been proposed, we've had 2 pre-apps on that site where we can see a copy kiosk like a human being or whoever. and a possible oil change placed through the lot split process. Neither of those are on the books, and neither of those are official. They've only been done through pre-app. Obviously, AutoZone is now open. That's built. The light green area that extends to the east towards the subdivision and then envelops the center of the site is as yet undeveloped. Cube Smart Storage is open for business. Denny's is under construction, as you can see in the green. Cobblestone Car Wash is under construction at the light green. And the orange is the where the proposed Taco Bell is. So you get a good idea of the site context of where Taco Bell's going. This is an actual picture of Dignity Health, so you can see the color and materials in direct play. These are obviously from the color materials palette that Dignity Health submitted, and then subsequently they revised. You may recall they had a slightly different plan 5 years ago, 4 years ago, then they came back when they were ready to build and they made some minor modifications. This is the actual color materials board, so that's the stone veneer. Those are the stucco finishes and colors. You know, they're glazing. They have that kind of strange orange glazing, which we have not replicated throughout the center. It was Dignity specific. But otherwise speaking, we've been looking at seeing colors, stone veneers, and some of the body base colors remain consistent through the center. And then again, allow some of the design teams to do some unique features to differentiate the users. This is the Cobblestone Car Wash Tunnel. That facility is under construction. The color representation isn't the best here, but they've more or less replicated Dignity Health. So when it actually gets built out, it's going to look a lot more like Dignity Health than you might expect. You can see the use of the stone veneer on the columns. You can see the color of the body. The way the roof line treatments have been addressed is really a lot like Dignity Health. AutoZone, they did the same kind of metallic canopy treatment, body colors, stone veneer column stacking, suspended steel trellis features. You know, this is the AutoZone that's open. You can see how it continues to replicate just a bit. Denny's got a little different. They're a little further away. They're towards the neighborhood to the south. But they did still do the stone veneer they matched. They matched the body colors, even though this color representation isn't the greatest. They did come in with some of their own colors, which we supported at that time. We said it doesn't have to be super matchy-matchy, so they brought in a little bit of their brown. They did a little kind of unique signage application. Looks like a hood ornament from a 1960s car, but what I did note since my first review comments is that they did incorporate a little bit of siding on their building. And in my first review comments to the applicant on Taco Bell, I said, I'm really concerned about the siding. You've got siding all over this building and it doesn't make sense. I would suggest to the applicant, if there's application of siding on the building in a limited quantity that makes any sense, I would suggest transitioning much closer to the Dignity elevations and finding opportunities to bring that element in rather than dominating the elevation of the Taco Bell with the siding, as you'll see. Here's the Cube Smart. They did the stone veneer. They did the metal cladding. This is directly coming from Dignity Health. They kind of did the same thing. They followed Dignity Health color palette, but they chose to do some block. Again, they're tucked in the back. They're not directly on the arterial. And here's Taco Bell. And so with Taco Bell, you know, again, getting back to likely lending towards what their prototypical desires are of what they want their stores to look like. We get that, but what we would prefer to see is they take this in the context of what I've just presented and bring back something that looks a bit more like it goes into the rest of the center rather than they've kind of cut and pasted the Taco Bell from anywhere and it just lands in the center and doesn't really look like the other buildings. And with that, I'll leave it up to the board for any questions for me. I know the applicant's on the line. Have some suggestions already as to what ideas they can have, but in my opinion, we have way too much siding going on. The colors aren't blending. I'm on the fence about this much purple. You know, those are my sorts of concerns. Just to try to bring it a little closer without necessarily having to make everything matchy-matchy.
Great, thank you, Jason. Would the applicant like to address some of Jason's concerns, or this still is just an information session, so
Am I live? Or I
Yeah.
need to start in again?
yes.
We hear you.
I'm good. Okay. Yeah, I'm Greg Hitchens. I'm the architect and applicant for this project, Taco Bell. I got a call yesterday from Pam Ozlowski that we could slide in the study session tonight, and I was delighted just because it would give us an opportunity to hear from the board. Otherwise, I was kind of going blind, but there really isn't a lot that I don't disagree with. You have to understand, and I think you do, Taco Bell corporate likes us to start with their latest and greatest prototype, and that's what you're seeing.
Exactly.
Honestly, unless we're in rural Arizona, we rarely get that, and we know that, but sometimes, you know, we get surprised and boards are happy with it. So I'm fully expecting a lot of what I've heard. I was surprised that the primary element was not even addressed, which thrills us because that's their corner tower, which is they've been playing around with that for, originally it was rusted metal that was a mess. Well, now it's a pre-finished rusted metal look and it doesn't create a mess. So that, it sounds like, is okay. The rest of it is manipulations that we routinely do once we know what the desires of whatever municipality we're in are. So I was kind of thinking we were going to have to do a little more. The outdoor dining, actually, there's an option for that. We certainly can provide it, and you'll be very happy with it. And it is positioned exactly where staff has indicated. They won't like losing the 3 parking spaces, but we'll do that. There's plenty of, the site's parked well. I will tell you that we actually created this a couple of years ago, but for a host of reasons, COVID being one, it got tabled until 2021. When I originally designed the south parking, I envisioned that drive aisle being a double loaded drive aisle. That's why it kind of ends where it does. We could certainly open up some of that to more landscaping. Again, that's since it's going to continue single loaded, we don't need 26.5 feet. And it sounds like they've had EFS on their buildings for years, and now they're a siding building, but we can certainly let the siding be an accent. They'll be happy to know that the purple can stay. I had fears that the orange on Dignity Health was going to work its way into Taco Bell, and we're going to be confused with Whataburger, but that's not in play, so that's good. That's pretty much it. I don't want to take any more of your time. I'm thankful that you're getting to see this now and perhaps give me some more input, that when we come back to you in a month, we might have something that works to everyone's satisfaction. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do any of the other board members have any comments at this time?
I am a little concerned about the signage, especially on the west elevation, just for the neighborhood across the street there. So I'm just curious about like the color temperature. I'm sorry, my son's here too. So I apologize about that. But that's something that I guess I was looking at, thinking like maybe the neighbors won't like that.
Here, I can bring up the elevations that she's speaking of. Just give me 1 second, and I will bring those up. Give me 1 second, okay? Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this, the south elevation, this is what would face towards the south. This would go towards the car wash. I'm sorry, let me think. Yes, the car wash. This is the elevation, the primary west elevation. I think this is the element that the architect was concerned about. And then the signage here. Are you concerned about this sign, Board Member Dudley, is the one that you're saying is up high facing the neighborhood across the street? Okay.
Yep. And because also particularly because I think the purple hue, it might cast a very kind of blue light. I don't know.
If I may ask the architect, without looking at a closer sign details package, is this an internal like vinyl? How is this going to be illuminated at night? Is it entire logo cabinet, or do you guys do something funky where you've got like a purple back panel and only part of it is lit up? Because we could ask to have some sort of a diffuser put over the plexi that still allows it to clearly be, let's say, legible at night, but it doesn't create the same glare. We've done that on the numerous signs within Litchfield Park because we get complaints about the excessive amount of glare that is caused by either neon or LED lighting on internally illuminated signs. So we do a diffuser, and I think, Pam, you're pretty much aware of what that material is, but it kind of subdues the sign. Might be something to consider.
Is there that was just like something that we're all concerned about, is the commercial lighting going into the backyards of existing residences.
If I may ask the board, are you good with the massing differentiation for the tower elements between the general mass of the building and the tower elements? I had even suggested that they may consider a little bit more projection. I know that might come as a surprise, but like the Dignity Tower is, in proportionally speaking, very tall. And then these are really subdued. And I'd almost suggest maybe bump it up a notch, maybe not raise the height of the Taco Bell sign, but maybe take the tower up a foot or something, just to kind of break it up. Or maybe the brown tower goes up a little bit, but the gray side or whatever that gray turns into goes down. Because we still need to figure out how we're going to wrap in some stone veneer here, how we're going to stucco some stuff, and how the whole material palette gets kind of reapplied. He does have the suspended trellises on there. He's got the gooseneck lamps that I think mimic some other buildings. But my thought was, are you okay with the proportions, or should they tell you with the massing a little bit?
I'm not a big fan of the Dignity Tower, as I think I expressed before. So
Yes.
I really don't want to make another one.
Okay.
I think the proportion is fine how it is here. Kind of the massing is pretty good.
Okay.
I do agree that the signage facing the neighborhood can kind of get it obnoxious if the light travels that far. The other thing I was going to suggest is that the other projects in this commercial neighborhood, we've used kind of that stone veneer as kind of a base, towards the bottom that adds a weight to it. And I think that's kind of what in your PowerPoint kind of goes across all the projects, that they've all kind of put that stone towards the bottom of their buildings. Creates kind of a wainscoting. It also weighs down the building a little bit, ties it down to the ground. I'm not sure how they would have to work something out between the towers, and then with their siding, how that would work for them. If they were going to incorporate something like that. And maybe that's where, rather than incorporating stone, if it doesn't really work with them, maybe that's where they could change from some of the siding out and create something heavier towards the bottom, or something that feels heavier towards the bottom. And that was just something I'm going to throw out there. I don't know if anybody else has any suggestions or options to try.
I guess maybe the only other thing that I might offer is that with regards to the purple, it does seem like a pretty saturated purple to me. I know that it's probably part of the corporate branding. So, but if there's any opportunity to kind of maybe tone that down a little bit, that might help it match with that orange a little bit more possibly.
If I may, Board Member Dudley, what we've seen in the past, or at least in my experience in working with, oh, I apologize for my phone ringing. Let me go back to slideshow mode here. If you don't mind, I'm used to working with double screens and I just have one here. So, so what we've seen in the past in terms of allowing some of the purple to carry over is it sometimes will allow like purple to occur here where the signage is also occurring. So they get the double presentation of both the sign and the purple, the branded. But then the kind of the use of using louvers or awnings or purple painted panels and all of that stuff, that's generally where we start to see some of that go away. And I'm not really sure what's going on here. We want to be very careful that items like these that are shown as 10, that they recognize that we don't allow signage, giant signage panels that say, 2 burritos for $1.99 type stuff, that they got to stick with the sign package that is allowed by code. So, those sorts of things I would suggest, if they have an opportunity for more purple, is that they put it where it's best suited and maybe reduce it down from like random geometry on the sides of the building.
Yeah, I think I personally I would appreciate to see a little bit less purple maybe, or have that more of a subdued element as much as possible. I like that it's kind of more of a modern feel, though. I mean, I think that's kind of what they're going for, and I do like that. I appreciate that. But anyway.
Okay. Any other comments from?
I realize I was muted. I was just going to say, when we're looking at this, is there any specific direction on the siding concern that I had? Or I shouldn't say.
I think I kind of agree with it's just a lot of siding.
Okay.
But I don't, I leave it to their design team to figure out how to balance that out with either changing materials or changing some of the proportions of the other elements.
Okay.
So. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or concerns? Comments? I'm missing one of the elevations for some reason. Oh, there it is. Okay.
If you'd like, Board of the Chair, I can bring up all 4 building elevations for you.
Oh, I've got it. I just had to scroll over to that side and stuff. Okay. All right. Well, if there's no other comments or questions for the applicant or staff, I guess we can close this item on our agenda and just wait to see how it's addressed. Do the applicant have any other questions for us? Specific questions?
No, I don't. I'm taking diligent notes here, and we'll try to get as much of this resolved as we can, and look forward to visiting with you in a month.
Great.
Okay.
And Greg, procedurally, if you don't mind, if as you know, if we don't, since we're looking at and saying next month, I'm just toggling my calendar, and I know Pam is well aware of the dates as well. The next design review board hearing is on May 6th. So if you can, feel free to work with staff on an interim basis between now and then, if you want to flash things over to us to see if we're staying on the same page in terms of an understanding. But we would really like to have your design drawings back to us at least the week prior, so I can prepare the staff report.
Understand. Thank
So
you.
if you can at least get it to us by like the 28th, that would be great.
Okay. Good to know.
But that's about 4 weeks. I think that hopefully is enough time for your team.
I think so.
Thank you. And then I guess the next item on our agenda is staff report on current events.
I'll just keep it brief. We're working on next week. We have our first the planning and zoning commissioners that are assisting with the zoning code rewrite. We're finally rejoining to and board member O'Connor is a member of that team to review section 31 of the zoning ordinance. I've been working with Pam and legal counsel. We've got multiple sections rewritten, so that'll be moving forward fairly quickly. We're just pulling it all together, all of the changes. Most of it's reformatting, restructuring, and improvements, and some of it's some material content changes. We are working still with Sun Health on their sign. I received a revised representation of the sign where they tried to do a lifelike thing, but it wasn't like a Google flown thing where I get the actual site context where you can see the streets and the cars and all the buildings. It was more just like a 3D rendering of it. I kind of pressed them to do like an actual drone style, what it really will look like. And I got that today. It still looks big, but we'll keep working with them so that their direction was given on how to proceed if they wanted to continue with that concept, which would, in our recommendation, would be through a design process, because the decision would ultimately end up in front of council, rather than parking a decision like that in front of the Board of Adjustment because of the variance needed for such a height wildly above what's allowed by code. Other than that, I'm not sure as we discussed ISART and Camelback, the human being is waffling around still a little bit. We haven't gotten a formal submittal for that yet, but that may still be in the works. And we'll keep you posted if it ends up coming forward and hopefully on a future agenda. But that's all I've got for now, unless Pam has something.
Yep, no. Okay. Do any board members have any reports on current events? No? Okay.
No, I do not.
Okay. A motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thanks, everyone. That was quick.
Thank
Thank you.
thank you, Rachel.
You bet.
Good job.
Good job.
All right.
Sorry for the very opportune appearance right when I'm trying to talk. But yeah, that's all right. It's a family affair over here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Casey.
See you soon. Thanks, Pam.
Great.